if you're an institution, if you're a school or whatever, and you're like, oh, I have to make sure that I have, like real students posting for me 10 years ago, like that was the big thing in social is like, I need authentic voices. I need students telling stories. I need all these things. And then now we come full circle and it's like, well, okay, agencies are actually producing fake influencers that are pushing a brand or that are pushing an idea or whatever. And these are agencies. These aren't individuals. Hello, welcome to Generation AI, the podcast where we demystify artificial intelligence through the lens of higher education and beyond. I'm your host, Artis Kadu, and joined with me today is my co-host with a numb face, Dr. JC Bonilla. Hey, JC.
Everybody, I came from the dentist. I've, multitask in the morning, just checkup, but the checkup got a little invasive, so they needed to put a little anesthesia. So I may not be drooling. I don't know what's happening here, but in case you do not understand the perfect eloquence of my words, it's not the accent, it's the anesthesia.
Hey, you sound actually a lot better. It's
Hey, screw you, man. Come on. From now on, anesthesia.
The whole time.
Accent reduction I'm going to start a whole thing called accent reduction via anesthesia. So how about that? I think I could, the narcotics industry may like it. Anyway.
Well, I'm doing pretty well. I think we're kind of kicking off September. This is our second recording. We're recording on September 12th, and we have a full packed episode today. We're going to touch base on a whole bunch of news that are happening, macro trends, and then, of course, we're going to give some tool updates as well. But, this is it's a sad week for a lot of us New Yorkers, especially with September 11. And, that was just yesterday. And can you believe it? It was how many years ago? It was 23 years ago, 24 years ago, which is crazy. And it's we have folks in the company today at Element that weren't even born when September 11 happened. So it makes me feel old. And yeah,
September 11. There's people who did not live with the trauma that they caused us, right? And we also speaking on the trauma, just a sad week for the country, right? And there's just this new generation that now is going to go through the impact of the assassination of Charlie Dirk, right? And to 9/11, just I don't know if I would tell you this. It was 9/11. It was 24 years ago that I was in New York for the first time touring universities. So I came to Poly, the NYU campus, right, the day before, and I was touring it. Because I was considering, I wasn't sure about the Brooklyn campus. And I was also touring Pace and Columbia. I was like, where am I going to apply and things of that sort. So, it was 24 years ago this week that my journey in New York started. And then like my family freaked out because, I was in the area. So
yeah, I was still in high school. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Now, the news of what happened in Utah, it's very close to home as well. So how did you experience this one?
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody is up to date, but obviously this is national news. Charlie Kirk, which if you don't know who he is, he's someone who social media personality and someone who essentially goes out to a lot of campuses, and he has a show and he likes to debate social issues and so on and so forth. He's become very, very popular on social media and obviously conservative media as well. But he happened to be at university UVU, which is actually one of our partner institutions, and that's why I felt like I bring this thing up. And UVU campus, and he's doing one of his big rallies, not big rallies, but one of his events. And very, very sadly, he got shot and died. And one of our champions at UVU, their nephew, who was like 10 feet away from Charlie from the incident. So it's very sad. So they're closed down the campus. I mean, I don't know, how do you manage this crisis communications and how do you manage this for an institution? But this is a very sad, very sad week. Obviously, September 11th, but then, the assassination of Charlie is also very, very sad because he represented a lot of different things and kind of the youth and the thought leadership and kind of the challenging and talking about social issues and so on and so forth. So,
as a Costa Rican American, sometimes I make sure that I divide between what happens here in our country in the U.S. versus global affairs. The situation with Charlie, it's populating the discourse in multiple of the channels I follow abroad, right? So from my Costa Rican network, it's inundating my social media. It's very interesting how it's going cross-boundary. I can never equate things with 9/11. I think that's just another very sad situation itself, but it's sad, right? It's sad how this trauma that we lived 24 years ago with what we're living with today, irrespective of the position that you come from, this is a situation, to your point about how do you manage this? And it's just like everybody, from the point of view of what we're trying to do in thought leadership and generation AI and whatnot, let's do things differently. The country, the world, we need to do things differently. Where we are today is incredible, sad, and unacceptable. So our respect and love for, of course, everyone who's been impacted by this, our partners, of course, the Kirk family. But this is just intolerable and unacceptable. Very, very sad.
I agree. So we'll leave it at that. So moving back to, the things that we do best, talk about
generation AI. So we talk about little generation things. Now let's bring it back to AI, right?
Yeah. So this new generation, right? That's talking about generation AI or talking about AI. One of the things that we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things that are happening right now in the market, and a couple of big trends or big news. One of them is Anthropic settled a lawsuit, a copyright settlement. So they settled it for 1.5 billion, and this was a copyright lawsuit. So the details of this, let's go through a couple of the details, because from the outside, when I first heard about it, it sounded like, oh shit, AI companies are in trouble now because this is setting precedents and, all the training data, but it's actually, good news for those AI enthusiasts. And so let's, essentially what this means is that this was a court decision that's basically saying, it's not saying that all AI is illegal. It's basically telling Anthropic that you can't use pirated material to train your models. And the whole idea here was that Anthropic used about 500,000 illegible books to train their models, and they had gotten those books without purchasing them, but they pirated them. So who hasn't pirated material before? But it just happens that, they got sued for it, and the court said, nope, you can't pirate that stuff. You have to buy it but you can still train your stuff. You can still buy a book. You can rip out the spine, and then you can train your models, and that's that's protected under the copyright, and that's fair use. That's considered fair use, but you actually have to buy the thing in order to do it. And this was a big one because it was roughly about $3,000 per book after fees and admin costs, right? So that's why the sum was so large, 1.5 billion.
Yeah. So to recap, right, everybody, remember, these frontier models need gigantic amount of data to be trained, and one of the training infrastructure levers was consuming books. As Artis mentioned, the ruling indicates that it's perfectly legal for a frontier model to use books to train its capabilities. It's just that the book acquisition needs to be according to the law, right? So you need to buy the book. You cannot just basically download it without permission and things of that sort and ingest it. So, by the way, from that 500, apparently there's a number that it was about 7 million books that were ingested, but 500,000 of them do not follow the right practice of acquisition, Artists. And it signals the cost of training, the cost of building infrastructure. And that's why I actually I agree with you that this is not that bad news. If Anthropic was where they were maybe 3 years ago as an organization that is not worth $150 billion, right, it would have basically killed them. But this is something that is a lot of money, However, for the sizes of these, frontier model organizations, it's not a problem. So we'll see the repercussions and the knock-on effects of this because there are multiple lawsuits and other ones. But now the precedent, because it's a class lawsuit, the precedent it's here, and it should basically unlock a lot of these fights of what's legal and not illegal and how to come and settle.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the first mega settlement in an AI copyright war, but obviously there's a whole bunch of other things with like OpenAI and Meta and others, New York Times and so on and so forth. So this is basically just going down to copyright. It's like, hey, you can't just train on copyrighted material. You have to buy it, but you can still train on it. You just have to buy it. That's all.
Speaking of the cost of infrastructure, right? Did you make a ton of money with your investments because you follow AI infrastructure and you may have some news there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is incredible. So, what's happening is yesterday or the day before, Oracle announced their earnings and their stock shot up Tuesday the night. So as of right now, Oracle's stock is up 36%, right? After its September 10th.
It went from trading at like that 240, 250, and then just shoots up to like 340, like $100 on the base of incredible jump. Why are we talking about Oracle now? Like what? Okay, well, this is not a financial trading tips. Hopefully, Ardis, did you
it is not. It is not a financial trading. No. I don't know. I probably have Oracle as part of indexes and things like that. So essentially what happened here is that they announced that OpenAI has committed $300 billion as one of their big deals. So everybody got very, very excited about how much infrastructure spending is happening, and Oracle has landed a really, really huge contract, $300 billion from OpenAI here. So everybody got really excited. Essentially, the demand or why this is driving demand is that infrastructure there's still a big boom in infrastructure. So there is app explosion that's happening. So Oracle has this low cost, secure cloud. They're building a lot of infrastructure for a lot of this AI labs, from XAI to OpenAI to others. And it's really interesting in terms of how we're seeing, like, everybody, all the analysts and everybody that said, well, things are slowing down. It's like, no. Based on this commitments, things are actually accelerating, and Oracle has been obviously is a winner in this regard, but they are the ones who are pulling together. Like, if you think about it, they're the shovels, right? They're building the shovels in the AI gold rush, right? So they're hosting the compute for OpenAI, XAI, Meta, Google's Gemini. So they're doing a lot of that work, and they're the infrastructure company behind a lot of those model companies and AI labs.
Yeah, look, it's just an interesting signal, right? Outside Oracle, the generalized point that we need to double down is the infrastructure supercycle in AI. It's been rewarded, has been rewarded, and it continues to be rewarded. So not only, as we speak a lot in this show, right? The models are getting more capable and faster. Agents are doing incredible things, but infrastructure, it's a backbone, and the rewards are there. So interesting. We'll continue to monitor that. And if you're still thinking of buying AI-friendly stocks, keep on going, because there may be some more rewards there. But do not take my advice. I am not a financial investor.
We have to put that disclaimer in there for sure. Yes. If your thesis has been AI, for sure, this is a really, really good news for that. And things aren't slowing down, right? This is just a start. So all the infrastructure that's being put in, you can see then NVIDIA with their chips, you can see how that's going to be playing. And then it goes up the layer, right? Then the AI labs like XAI, Meta, OpenAI, Google, then the application layer, right? So you have this 4 different layers, but there's huge deployments of this, and things are accelerating for sure. So transitioning to how these agentic workflows are happening, one of the news items that we have in here, kind of transitioning from really, really big kind of market trends to something very, very actionable. This week, OpenAI, they added full MCP tool support in their ChatGPT developer mode. So, and if you have ChatGPT, now you can connect to any MCP server, remote MCP server, which is very, very interesting. And this opens up a whole bunch of use cases if you've been using ChatGPT for the past, or if that's your default kind of AI assistant, adding MCP allows you to connect to different systems. You had the capability to add connectors before, but it was like a smaller subset list. Now you can add any MCP connector. We've talked about MCP in the past, and for those of you who don't know what MCP is, it's kind of this, think about it as a USB for AI agents and AI assistants to kind of connect to each other or to other systems. So it's a protocol, and a lot of companies and a lot of tools and SaaS products, and rather than exposing their APIs, now they're exposing and they're having MCP servers, so agents can communicate with them. And it makes things a lot more autonomous. It makes things a lot more connected. So now you can reach out and connect to a lot more systems in ChatGPT. So that was, that was something that was welcome, because we internally here at Element, we use ChatGPT quite a bit. And sometimes it's like, well, wouldn't it be really, really nice if it can connect to X, right? And that service has an MCP server. It's like, well, the connector is not quite there, but now, that's available for everybody. So I was really excited about that.
Yeah, all things MCP, Signal, the agentic style of AI deployment continues to expand, and interoperability becomes more flexible, faster. And yeah, so now if you're interested in doing more workflows across other connectors, that's supported. Which takes us to the other agentic announcement with Replit Agent 3, right? Replit, an apps kind of deployment tool, all of a sudden launches its autonomous coding Agent 3. Testing, fixing, retesting. And this is really interesting, Artis. I wonder if you can say more about, what do you know about reflective loops? So it's the idea that allows you to do this autonomous testing with reflective loops. Do you know what that means? Is Signals more copilots and doers? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think before we kind of talk about this, Replit is a vibe coding or a developer platform where you can kind of build applications. They had introduced an agentic vibe coding agent that you can just, very similar to Lovable, but it's different. It kind of, you can use a lot of different languages and so on and so forth. It's not just about building websites. So Replit had introduced their AI agent for vibe coding. We've talked about this before. So Replit and Lovable have been two of our preferred tools. So, however, what JC is saying is that Replit just introduced what they're calling their Agent 3. So their third generation of their agent platform, where this agent is it's a massive upgrade from before. So whereas you can give these agents a prompt before, and they would go back and forth with you and build something, now they're 10 times more autonomous. So essentially, you can operate independently for up to 200 minutes per session. And it can manage the whole entire workflow from ideation to deployment without any oversight at all. And that's what we're talking about here. So essentially what that means is, before you had to go back and forth quite a few times, it broke itself, it fixed itself. With Agent 3, JC, what you mentioned about reflective, it's testing itself. So it builds something, it goes through, and it has a testing capability. So it looks at the application, it sees that it's broken, it tests everything, it tests all the fields, it tests all the buttons, does it scroll, does it fill in this, does it do the actions, and then based on that, it reflects in itself, and then there's this built-in loop. So it basically proactively tests apps in a real browser environment, which simulates kind of this human interaction, like we said, like clicking and filling forms. It identifies those bugs and then auto fixes them. It logs the issues, it runs API checks, and even handles kind of this user authentication process. So that's the big thing here. And if you have used Replit before, it's pretty amazing what it's been adding, because some of the other features that have introduced are things like not just building the apps, but they've also introduced kind of this AI workflows, so it can create multi-step automations now as well. So think about if you use Zapier before, to automate things and to connect to different systems and to do something, Replit can build those workflows as well now. So you can build like a Slack bot that pulls GitHub issues and then summarizes them in a daily email via Gmail and then saves the attachment to Dropbox and so on and so forth. So they've kind of built the ability to, through vibe coding or through prompting, essentially, build these workflows. You can also build agents. So Agent 3 can build other agents autonomously. You can build like custom chatbots or time-based triggers to reminder systems. So you can build like sub-agents that can inherit the testing on the smarts. And then, of course, you can build apps as well. So that's a whole revamped flow of building apps, which existed there before, but now you can build much more complex applications. So very excited. I've played around with this very little, but I'm very excited to kind of continue this and perhaps do a session on this. So I've done Lovable before, which is our preferred tool, but now with Replit Agent 3, I'm getting very excited on how you can build these agents and workflows directly in there. They can connect with Slack and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we should do a whole episode on demystifying work charts and this idea of how like workflows and those kind of things is the way to go, and then showcase how it gets done. All right, so artists, agents are getting more capable. We see that in these updates, the cost of training, it's being legalized, so the friction in cost of training is not longer. And as well, the infrastructure in AI continues to be rewarded. Let's bring all these conversations to something like social media, and specifically how video and image generation, it's given us one use case that is really interesting, is popping, but it's all powered by this new infrastructure agents AI wave of image and video generation. So one of the things I ask you is like, let's do an episode on AI influencers, and you're like, yeah, great. But how are these influencers being built? Like, what is the power that is happening? And the enactment, if you will, is just the incredible proliferation of video generation models, right? So
video and image generation for sure.
Video and image generation. So the way I'll kick off our conversation, right, maybe is in social media, there's a proliferation of content that is synthetic. You have experienced this. Maybe you don't know that you're seeing AI generated content. Maybe it's actually in front of you that it says this is AI content generation. So specifically the rise of AI influencers, virtual personas, think of hyper-personalized avatars. They're hitting gigantic market shares, artists. And some of them are making up to $10 million a year. We can give you some details of who they are. They have millions of followers. Brands are really excited. They're partnering with Samsung, with Versace, with the brands locally in the US and worldwide to do very controlled brand-specific experiments, because you know why? Artists, they control the narrative, the brands, they control all the artifacts, and there's this idea that fandom, us, we kind of like the adventure and the fiction, but we don't like its deception, right? So it's really a really interesting rise, and it's popular everywhere.
I don't spend a lot of time on social in that way. Like Instagram is something that I don't spend a lot, or TikTok. Like I spend zero time on TikTok, by the way. So
you don't know about Lu of Magalu?
No.
From Brazil, or Lee
No.
Michaela? You don't know? Oh, come on, you haven't seen.
No, I have no
Shudu?
idea who these people are. No idea. Why would I care?
Because Lu Magalu.
But we are talking about Generation AI here, and
Lu Magalu has 7 million followers. And how do you build that following base, right? And then how do you turn that into commercialization? It's a different conversation, but it's what is powering this, right? Lil Miquela, and by the way, Lu Magalu is just a fictional character, originally in Brazil, but obviously what you have in all this machinery, same thing for Lil Miquela with almost 3 million followers on Instagram. They are owned by agencies that have leveraged all the machinery that we've been seeing for the past probably 20 years in computer generated graphics, but it just went bananas in the past year because the conversation today.
So how do we tie this to, so if you're an institution, if you're a school or whatever, and you're like, oh, I have to make sure that I have, like real students posting for me 10 years ago, like that was the big thing in social, is like I need authentic voices, I need students telling stories, I need all these things. And then now we come full circle and it's like, well, okay, agencies are actually producing fake influencers that are pushing a brand or that are pushing an idea or whatever. And these are agencies, these aren't individuals. And then we saw how every kid now wants to be an influencer. So Mr. Beast, the rise of Mr. Beast and all these. So the YouTubers and the AI influencers, but the AI generation of this images, the AI generation of this video is becoming more and more. So everybody can do it, but agencies can spend a little bit more money and generate better video and a lot more of that and generate better images. So one of the things to tie this back on, I know that this is very interesting to you because, that's kind of your world, the social media and focusing, but I want to take more of a model approach and say, go very practical in here. And just like we said with Replit and just like we talked about MCP with ChatGPT, there are two models that are super impressive and two tools that are super impressive that kind of are powering a lot of it. One of them was released not too long, like last week, and I'm not saying that it was powering, but basically image editing and doing anything with images just by prompting it was essentially, reinvented last week when Google announced and dropped what they call their Nano Banana image model. And Nano Banana is incredible because the examples that I've seen over the past week on how it's being used, it's just incredible. You can upload an image and you can just describe whatever you want, and it will just make those edits. You have a black cat, you can make it a white cat, you can make it you can essentially transform and do anything with images with Nano Banana. It's incredible editing. And what a lot of folks are doing is they are using Nano Banana to have beginning frames, end frames, middle frames, and keep character consistency and produce a lot of this content to kind of merge brands together, to merge, let's say, a model and then have them wear the clothes or have them be in different environments and so on and so forth. So you can use Nano Banana to essentially make sure that you have your students, and then you can put those students now in different situations. You can change, if they're wearing a 2023 t-shirt, you can say, hey, let's update this t-shirts. I really love this image. Let's update this image to reflect 2025 or 2026 graduation or whatever. So those are capabilities that you can do with Nano Banana. But in addition to that, one of the things that we talked about before is Google's VO3 model. And Google's VO3, it's one of the best models for video and essentially has won the video model for the past, 6 months now. And its ability to essentially generate voice along with the video. So that's why you're seeing so much social content being produced with it. And what they did recently, as of September 8th, they made that about 50% cheaper, the model. So now you can generate it. And one of the great features that they did, now you can do vertical video formats. You can do a 9:16 aspect ratio, which is optimized for mobile first platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels, and of course, YouTube Reels as well. And of course, they also upgraded it. So now you can output 1080p HD output as the standard. So essentially, this becomes your de facto video generation for social if you want to be an AI influencer. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
100%. So, artists, the conversation today about infrastructure that is enabling this type of proliferation of social media, or AI influencer and whatnot. So, Nano Banana unlocks multimodal creativity, fantastic for editing.
You can use that on Gemini, by the way. You can use it on Gemini, Google Gemini. Yep.
So let me put these two worlds together. Just on Nano Banana, right? Nano Banana meets viral content. So here are the most 5 viral prompts on Nano Banana. Take a picture of yourself and Nano Banana prompt number 1. Turn yourself into an action figure. Nano Banana prompt number 2. See yourself in a different decade. You have to see in that, right? Like this whole playbooks that grabs little artists and puts it in 1942 or whatnot. Nano Banana viral prompt number 3, appear in a TV show. So you can say, I want to be in the Seinfeld shows, right? Nano Banana prompt number 4, step into classic artwork, replacing, I don't know, the Mona Lisa with a bald man me, right? Oh, number 5, using your picture to visit a landmark worldwide. So some of the viral prompts that are being used with Nano Banana. And what this showcases is just this to your point that, a shirt says the year of production. Now you want this to be contextual to today. You have to do the whole thing again. So all of a sudden, you just come and stitch that video with something that to a human eye, you would not recognize what's happening, right? It's like, oh my gosh, really the production value is so good. And the cost of updating content, is peanuts. And that's Nano Banana, right?
Correct.
Terrible name, artist. Terrible name.
I mean, that's the model name, but yeah, it's the image, the default image now editor in Google Gemini. You can also use it through the APIs as well, right? So if there's other tools that now are using the APIs underneath to do this editing. So a lot of companies are incorporating it as part of their image editing. So I don't know if it's Canva or some other tools as well are using that as the editor.
Did you mention on Google Veo 3 these new features that also move into social media? I don't know if you want to talk about that, but it's not only how good they're getting, but how the applications, or a prior conversation about MCP now, in bringing more connectors. These tools are getting so good that I understand how I do this with cuts and production that need to be social media friendly or cinema and things like that. So you want to talk about that a little bit on Veo 3?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously Veo 3 has been trained and Google has huge training videos from YouTube and social and so on and so forth. So it's really powerful what Veo 3 can do. And now we can generate vertical videos, right? So the vertical videos, it's what you need for social. Whereas before it was doing the horizontal videos, the 16:9, now it's doing 9:16. And it understands you can do a selfie, you can do different positions, the lighting, everything. Everything is kind of top notch in there specifically. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Of course, exactly a year ago, artists. I mean, a year ago, I was sitting down in boardrooms where the top 100 brands in the world were looking at the agency that I was working at, because we were the best at making vertical video formats. Literally authentic, crap that you would do, but just, you do it in phone native type of format. That's what it looks like. And yeah, social media favors that. And actually what was happening then, I don't know how it's evolved, is that it gave you more relevance or organic points if it was native for the format that TikToks of the world like. So vertical was king. So the ability just to do that, it just keeps on. This is where AI is so exciting. Keeps on making these foundational distinctive pillars that makes creative work, humans. I specialize in this, and now no, AI can do it. Obviously, for a fraction of the cost, and the time to production, it's a nanosecond. It's so incredible. So as simple as it sounds, that's gigantic for the sector, right? And brands will eat this up, or consumers will eat this up.
Correct. Yeah, and it's really interesting for brands because they can now do what we have been pushing for: personalization or micro audiences. So now you can produce content a lot faster and a lot more of it personalized to micro audiences. So you can change the messaging, you can change the video, you can You can create a lot more of it. You can do A/B testing. You can see how it works. If you remember, like you said it, like last year we were having conversations and you said, hey, at VaynerMedia, we were doing 100 or 200 different versions of these production content and seeing which one worked best. Well, every brand can do that now for literally just a couple $100 because that's how much it takes to create this video. I think it's about like 15 cents per second to generate. So, 15 cents per second on VO3 fast, and about 40 cents for if you want higher quality, per second. So you can create a 30-second ad in VO3 for
$12.
It's crazy, right?
For $12, hundreds of thousands of dollars, hundreds and thousands of dollars to the variation, and now and again, the exciting thing about VO3 is that it's the full package, not only video, right, but you have the voice,
the voice, yes,
right? So
it's the whole production. Yep.
And I haven't gone deeper into these video models, but as I understand, the storyboarding behind the scenes, all these kind of canvassing that allows the production to be interactive and prove it. Like think about the rounds to produce a video that also being coded in the infrastructure here. So it's really doing marvelous here.
Yeah, and what they did with this latest release, it's essentially they made it production ready. So 1080p HD output as the standard. It has smoother transitions, crisper visuals, kind of this better audio integration. And it's really ideal for what we're talking about for this polished, professional-looking clips without post-production at all in it.
Yeah. Here, just a quick question, and this is, I speak of how the industry uses that, but I really have spent very little time on video models. I think you have more the upper hand on all of us here. Midjourney was the place to go, like literally a year ago, right? And then I know that Sora and OpenAI, there's these other tools out there. It really feels that VO3, Google, is eating everybody's lunch. Is that right? Do you experience it that way, that these tools that were incredible in video now either they're staying flat, they're just not being talked about the same way? What do you think?
Yeah, I think different tools have their different places, but in terms of the output quality, VO3 has really taken away. I personally use Midjourney for image generation. They have a really amazing style, and this stylistic view of how they do styles is amazing. And then also they have introduced the ability.
Our own show is produced there, right?
Yeah, most of the images that go along with this show, I produce them in Midjourney. So as a matter of fact, I think all of them are Midjourney produced images. And what I also do sometimes for my presentations is, so you can take these images and then you can add motion to them. So you can describe and add motion to them, and then you can transform it into videos. And they also have the ability to do loops. So when you produce an image and you put it in a presentation, rather than just putting a static image in there, I put this amazing loops, and it's just like stock backgrounds. Like sometimes you have this stock backgrounds. So I do that with Midjourney, and that's really, really integrated nicely in there, and they do a really good job at that. But no, as a matter of fact, you use the right tool for the right situation or for the right project, and I find it that Midjourney still is really, really good about image generation, especially around conceptual images. It has the styles. If it understands your styles, then it kind of keep on doing that. So we're going to do a whole show, probably a show and tell with VO3 and kind of the video session.
Are there other alternatives here? Midjourney, VO3, anything else that in the world of image video generation models you think are worth for our listeners to live with? Oh, that's interesting to me.
Yeah. So there's a couple other tools if you want to take a look at them. There's obviously Runway ML. They're Gen 3. You can do vertical, horizontal support, 1080p, fast rendering. And they do social, it's good for social reels and kind of these quick prototypes. There's something called Kling AI 2.1, and that's good for lip syncing. So it does lip syncing, motion. You can control motion with it. And then it's a little bit cheaper. There's a free version with watermarking. Luma Dream Machine, that's another one. So hyper-realistic animations, and it's kind of with easy prompts. And then you have Leonardo. So Leonardo AI is kind of a platform that if you want to go test out all of these different models in one place, Leonardo gives you the ability to do that because you can use VO3 through Leonardo. It's got the built-in VO3 access and the sound effects and all of that stuff. So that might be a better platform if you want to be a creator because it kind of brings all these different models together and you can play around with them in Leonardo.ai.
Art is super fun, and I think that more, as you said, more to come on video image model generation. Let's bring it very practical. Hey, I really like what artists and JC are talking about. I want to start using either V3 or Nano Banana, or I'm going to go all in into this idea of potentially have my own AI influencers. Watch out, things to be looking out as I go on Monday, and maybe I want to start practicing with this. So I'll tell you the first one, artist. It's really, really important for everyone to understand that authenticity, it's king, right? So this thing need to look appealing to the different audiences, and we can have AI content being presented. Audiences like it, but they don't like deception. By no means present something that it's AI generated and fake it that it's not, right? So have full disclosures and trust the signals, but trust AI content. You can do that. The other thing I in terms of how I start thinking about this, right? It's this idea that there's cultural signals and cultural, relevance that you can cherry back from. Like I forget which of these famous influencers is one of the, has a funny name, Lil Miquela or Imalu. She showed up, obviously, as an avatar at Coachella, and it was fantastic in social media. So what you have is a human-dominated thing where actually humans are, and it's superimposed or is embedded, and then these fictional character shows up. The other thing that I guess I want to drive here is I'll start thinking about building these. The human and creative, the human and AI collaborating, it's a thing. So I think that schools or brands, even us, can start basically experimenting with that and see how the brand, yeah.
We're saying we need a bolty character to come to life.
Why not? Why not? I mean, why not practice with 7 variations of Bolt and see how he speaks to you? Let me take this to the next level, right? So, university mascots, right? So, the mascot can have variations that speak to a freshman, sophomore, a parent who doesn't speak English, who's trying to send that. And just think about the personalization of this character, the mascot and whatnot, that goes through the process of mom and dad who are super worried because now they need to bring little Johnny to campus. And they're like, little Johnny has never done laundry, right? So, hey, how is the laundry system? Those are questions that Johnny doesn't care about, but mom and pops actually care about. And just think about having that conversation, very immersive, with the tour of the laundry system. I mean, that's the stuff that can be produced so quickly and cheap today. But a year ago, it would have cost us $100,000 to do a tour of the laundry room on campus. So no one would have done that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think one of the things to keep in mind around this video generation or whatever, try not to fake it as this is a real video. One of the things is just, whatever the messaging is, just do it as a video, but try to make sure that the audience understands that, hey, this is exaggerated or whatever. Think about, how the audience can understand it. There's a production or there's some kind of visual effects or some kind of post-production in there, So just think about that. And then if you're creating your own characters and your mascot you can creating, just make sure that the brand also owns the responsibility of what happens with that on social as well. So those are just the watch outs. Just make sure if you're creating them, you don't pass them off as hype, as real. That's the only downside that can happen out of that. So we're going to repeat it again. We are not licensed stock traders, so do not take any of this advice and do not blame us if things don't work out. That's a terrible disclaimer. See you next time, everybody. Generation AI is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you're going to like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing weekly, and we've got a wide range of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed leaders and professionals like you find their next big idea. They feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts, like Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Jenny Lee Fowler, Brian Gross, and many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform that's helping institutions all over the country create meaningful, personalized, and engaging connections with their prospects and students. Learn more at element451.com.